This is Fox 5 News Morning.
Public figures and social media.
Yeah, and going straight to the top, too, as we all know. We're going to break it all down from our president's presence on Twitter to Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who is now facing backlash for blocking people from his public Facebook profile. Is that acceptable or is that a no-no? Here's a question for you. Can an elected official block citizens from their official social media accounts, your Facebook, your Twitter?
The ACLU is suing Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, saying that it is unconstitutional for him to block people who've posted critical comments on his Facebook account. Other governors face similar legal action, and President Trump has also been criticized for blocking critics on his Real Donald Trump account, the same account he uses to tweet his official statements. Joining us now, attorney Seth Waxman, who is in the government investigations practice at Dickinson Wright. He's also a former federal prosecutor, a friend of the show. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
Okay, so what's the answer here? Is it unconstitutional to block citizens who post messages? And it sounds so crazy, unconstitutional, right? But to block messages on social media today.
Sure. This raises a question of First Amendment law, free speech, kind of one of the fundamental bedrock principles of this country. And if a citizen goes on a social media forum that's, a government official's social media, be it Twitter or Facebook, and offers their viewpoint, says that I don't like this policy or procedure, that is going to be classically protected First Amendment speech that the courts are going to heavily scrutinize a public official that tries to silence that message of that individual citizen.
Is there a line, though? What about hateful speech, threatening speech?
Correct. There is a line. Now, where that line lies in the social media context has not risen up through the courts yet. I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming months and years we see a case go up into the Supreme Court for an ultimate ruling. But just like in an old town hall session, you couldn't run into a town hall and start screaming like a maniac and yelling, pick up arms or pick up a stick and attack the public official, because that really thwarts free speech. So there are limits. You can't run into a theater and yell fire, that kind of concept.
So I know a lot of this is new territory, but if a public official is either deleting messages that are there, posts, I should say, public posts, or blocking individuals completely, if somebody sues, as we're starting to see now, I mean, what essentially could come out of this?
Well, so a court can issue an injunction and bar the public official from blocking those individuals. In fact, across the river in the Eastern District of Virginia, a federal judge just did this in the last few days. In that case, the citizen offered a viewpoint on the Loudoun County Board officials' conflict of interest rules and whether they were following those rules or not. The court found that that was classic viewpoint, a perspective by that citizen, and enjoined or stopped the public official from blocking those kind of posts or banning that person from their social media.
At least with the governor of Maryland, I think there's wording that says that, negative messages or what have you won't be tolerated or will be taken down. Is that enough if you say, only a forum for positive conversation or something?
Right. So a lot of government officials and states and governments have those kind of policies. Where that line lies in the social media context hasn't been drawn. But if you take it out of the social media context, just because speech is abhorrent or someone objects to it, it's hateful in one way or the other, we may sit back and say we don't like that speech, but that is what the First Amendment is designed to protect. The burning of the American flag, many people don't like. That's been protected type of speech. So in the social media context, if you go on and you speak ill of a public policy or even, start skewing towards hate speech, the policies that are in place now from Governor Hogan and others say that they're allowed to silence or delete those kinds of posts. My suspicion is, as the law evolves in this area, it will become more in line with what is outside the social media, that it will ultimately be potentially protected speech, unless you get to the line where you're inciting violence or kind of causing a public disorder.
On the flip side, though, if I'm that public figure, I mean, why would I want that hateful wording on my page if other people were going there to see what I've been doing? If there's something that I feel is critical of not just myself, maybe I have thick skin, maybe I can handle it. But if you're saying something that is just outright hateful, I don't want that on my page. So why don't I have the right to get rid of that?
And it goes there quickly, doesn't it? It goes there quickly.
Sure, and if this was your private account, I would entirely agree with you. But when you represent yourself as Donald Trump does, as the President of the United States...
Okay, let me ask you about that. Let's get to the big one here, because if we talk about the President right now, the President is tweeting what seem to be official statements, but not from the official presidential Twitter account. This is what he claims to be his personal Twitter account. So because they're official statements, does that change anything with the law?
I think the courts would look at that as form over substance. You know, are you announcing policies through this Twitter account? When you say, you know, this is my policy on transgenders in the military, and this is my official policy, whether the banner on that particular social media says Donald Trump, real Donald Trump, or the White House, I think the courts will look behind that and say, what is the content, what is the purpose of that message? And to the extent the president or other government officials are using that for policy, procedure, announcing their platform, the courts are going to skew towards finding that to be a public forum where, you know, although it might be upsetting for a public official to hear words that they don't like, it is a public forum.
Could the repercussion be anything, though, more than just you have to unblock this person, you cannot block this person?
Well, that's the primary remedy. You know, you can get attorney's fees, for example, as the case across in Virginia just resulted in. I don't see this as really a damages where there's a monetary win for the plaintiff.
Might it change policy, though?
Correct. That I think will happen over time, and as the courts come down with more and more decisions in this area, and especially ultimately if the Supreme Court opines or offers its opinion on this, that you'll start to see kind of mass change. In fact, we've seen already the policies that were up on various government websites on OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, I looked at this morning. The policy that was there a couple years ago no longer is present. So it seems that, you know, government officials are already taking into consideration.
It's ever evolving. This is all new to all of us. So,
Correct.
Okay, we'll wait and see what happens with this and other lawsuits across the country. Seth, thank you.
Thanks
for coming in today.